Captain Li Taiyang stood at attention in the grand hall of Stellaris Prime. Watching aliens from 47 different species argue about borders and trade routes, he had been a soldier for 12 years, fought in 3 major conflicts, and earned more medals than he cared to count. But nothing in his military training prepared him for the bizarre spectacle of galactic politics. The Valanthians were arguing with the Crythians again. Their voices echoed off the crystalline walls, translated into dozens of languages simultaneously by the station's computers. Taiyang's job was simple: stand there, look professional, and protect Admiral Park Daeon if anything went wrong. It was boring work, but Earth needed to make a good impression. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Union 3 years ago. Most aliens still thought of humans as primitive newcomers. During a break in the proceedings, Keong excused himself to patrol the station. The official reason was security mapping. The real reason was that he needed to escape the endless speeches before he fell asleep standing up. He walked through empty corridors, his boots echoing on metal floors, until he found an abandoned observation deck at the edge of the station. That was where he saw her. A young woman sat alone by the massive window, staring at the stars. At least Taiyang thought she was a woman. Her skin was made of crystalline material that caught the starlight. But unlike the other Valanthians he had seen, her crystals were dull gray instead of the brilliant blues, purples, and golds that seemed to be their norm. She wore simple robes, not the elaborate outfits the other Valanthian royalty displayed. Taiyang hesitated. He should probably leave her alone. But there was something about the way she sat there, so still and quiet, that made him curious. "Sorry to disturb you," he said in standard galactic common. "I'm just doing a security check." The woman turned to look at him. Her eyes were crystalline too, but softer somehow. Most aliens he met looked at him with either curiosity or barely concealed disgust. Humans were considered ugly by galactic standards, with their soft skin and strange hair. But this woman just looked at him with calm interest. "You're one of the humans," she said. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes. "Captain Li Taiyang, if I'm not mistaken. You saved 17 soldiers during the Outer Rim conflicts by holding a position for 6 hours against impossible odds." Taiyang blinked in surprise. "How do you know that?" "I read the reports. All of them. I have a good memory." She gestured to the empty space beside her. "You can sit if you want. No one else comes here." Taiyang sat, keeping a respectful distance. "Why not?" "Because I'm here," she said simply. "I'm Princess Yura of House Valanthus, the 5th daughter, the defective one. Defective." Yura touched her gray, crystalline arm. "My people prize color and brilliance. Our skin reflects our worth, they say. Mine has been gray since birth. It means I'm flawed, worthless. My family keeps me away from important events so I don't embarrass them." Taiyang looked at her carefully. She didn't seem worthless to him. She sat with perfect posture, spoke with clarity, and had somehow known details about his military record that weren't exactly public knowledge. "That seems like a waste," he said. Yura laughed. "I sound like breaking glass, but not unpleasant. A human thinks my family is wasteful? That's ironic. Most species consider you the waste. The primitives who stumbled into space travel a century late." "Fair point," Taiyang admitted. "But we're here now, and we're learning fast." They talked for an hour. Yuta asked him about Earth, about human culture, about why he became a soldier. Taiyang found himself telling her things he rarely shared with anyone. About growing up in a military family, about watching his older brother die in a meaningless border skirmish, about his belief that soldiers should fight to protect people, not to advance political agendas. In return, Yura told him about life as the forgotten princess, how she spent her days in the palace libraries, studying languages and history and galactic law because she had nothing else to do, how she learned 17 languages, memorized ancient treaties, studied military strategies from 100 different worlds, how her family never asked her opinion about anything because they assumed she had nothing valuable to say. "You know," Taiyang said thoughtfully, "in human military doctrine, we have a saying, never overlook the quiet observer. The person no one pays attention to often sees things everyone else misses." "And what have I seen?" Rura asked. That's what I'm wondering? Over the next week, Tai Yang found excuses to patrol near the observation deck. Every time Yura was there, they talked about everything. She taught him about the complex politics of the Galactic Union. He told her about human history, about how Earth almost destroyed itself before learning to work together. Then the crisis came. The Crythian Empire issued an ultimatum. They would absorb 3 smaller species territories unless the Union provided a marriage alliance to cement peace. Every major house immediately began offering their best children, their most beautiful and accomplished sons and daughters. Hoping to secure the match and the political power it would bring, Tai Yang watched the chaos unfold from his position behind Admiral Park. The Valanthian delegation offered Princess Heijin, the eldest daughter, renowned for her brilliant purple crystals and diplomatic skills. Other houses made similar offers. Everyone wanted this alliance, but Tai Yang barely heard the negotiations. He was thinking about Yura, sitting alone in her observation deck, knowing her family would never consider offering her, knowing she was worth more than all of them combined if anyone would just look past the surface. An idea formed in his mind. A crazy, probably career-ending idea. When the summit reached a deadlock that evening, with every house demanding their candidate be chosen, Tai Yang did something unprecedented. He stepped forward from his position, ignoring Admiral Park's shocked gasp. "The delegation of Earth requests permission to make an offer," he said clearly. The room fell silent. A human soldier had just interrupted the Galactic Council. Species that had been part of the Union for millennia turned to stare at this primitive newcomer. "You have no authority to make offers," Prince Zen of House Valanthus sneered. He was tall and radiant, his crystals shimmering with blues and golds. "You're just a guard. I'm a decorated captain representing Earth's military," Tai Yang said calmly. And according to Galactic Union Charter Article 7, Section 12, any member species can propose an alliance marriage if their delegation agrees. Admiral Park. All eyes turned to Admiral Park Daeyun. The Admiral looked at Tai Yang for a long moment. They had served together for years. Park knew Taeyang didn't make reckless moves without reason. "Earth supports Captain Lee's proposal," Park said slowly. "Let's hear it." Taeyang took a breath. This was it. The moment that would either change everything or end his career. Earth offers a marriage alliance between humanity and House Valanthus. Specifically, I request the hand of Princess Yura, 5th daughter of House Valanthus. The room erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Lord Valanthus looked like he might have a stroke. Prince Zen laughed cruelly. But in the back of the observation gallery, Princess Yura stood up, her gray crystals catching the light. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her. And Tai Yang had just bet Earth's entire future on that choice. The council chamber exploded with noise. Ambassadors from every species shouted at once, their voices mixing into an incomprehensible roar. Tai Yang stood perfectly still, maintaining his military posture even as his heart pounded. He had just done something monumentally stupid or monumentally brilliant. Time would tell which. "This is an insult." Lord Valanthus roared, his crystalline skin flashing angry reds. "You dare request my daughter? My least valuable child? You mock House Valanthus." "No mockery intended, Lord Valanthus," Taeyang said calmly. "I request Princess Yura because I believe she would make an excellent partner for this alliance." Prince Zen laughed, a sound like shattering glass. The defective princess and the primitive human. How fitting. 2 worthless beings together. Admiral Park grabbed Taeyang's arm and pulled him back from the podium. The older man's face was red with anger and something else. "Fear, maybe? What are you doing?" Park hissed. "You just created a diplomatic incident? Earth's delegation will be recalled. You'll be court-martialed." Maybe Taeyang admitted. "But I found something during my patrols, sir." Something important. Before Park could respond, a voice cut through the chaos. It was ancient and powerful, carrying authority that made everyone fall silent immediately. "I wish to hear more about this proposal." Empress Kira of the Crythian Empire sat on her floating throne at the head of the council. She was incredibly old, thousands of years by human reckoning, and her form was barely physical anymore. Energy crackled around her translucent body. Your Imperial Majesty, Lord Valanthus sputtered. Surely you cannot seriously consider this farce. Consider everything seriously, Kira said. That is why I have ruled for 3 millennia. Captain Li Taiyang of Earth, explain your reasoning. Taiyang stepped forward again. Every eye in the chamber focused on him. Somewhere in the observation gallery, he knew Yura was watching. He hoped she trusted him. Your Majesty, the purpose of this alliance is to bring stability and wisdom to the Union's future. Everyone here has offered their most beautiful, most accomplished children. But beauty and accomplishment are easy to see. What's harder to find is potential that others have overlooked. And you claim Princess Yura has such potential? Kira's voice held a note of curiosity. I know she does. She speaks 17 languages fluently. She has memorized the complete text of the Union Charter, including amendments dating back 800 years. She can recite battle strategies from 50 different worlds and explain why each one worked or failed in its historical context. The chamber was utterly silent now. Lord Valanthus looked shocked. Even Prince Zen had stopped smirking. How do you know this? Kira asked. Because I talked to her. Something apparently no one else has bothered to do. Kira was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke again. Bring Princess Yura to me, now. Guard scrambled to obey. 5 minutes later, Yura entered the chamber. She walked with quiet dignity, her gray crystals dull against the brilliant colors of everyone else. But she held her head high. Princess Yura, Kira said. Is what the human claims true? Yes, Your Majesty, Yura said softly. Recite the opening passage of the Treaty of Starfall, in original Krithian Old Tongue. Every Krithian in the room stiffened. Old Tongue was their ancient language, dead for centuries. Even most modern Krithians couldn't speak it. Yura closed her eyes. Then she began to speak. The words that came from her mouth were harsh and beautiful, ancient and powerful. She recited for 2 full minutes without hesitation. When she finished, the Krithian delegates were staring at her in shock. Ambassador Han Nari, Earth's chief diplomat, looked like she might faint. Admiral Park's mouth hung open. Kira laughed. It was a sound like wind through canyons. Remarkable. Child, why has no one known about your abilities? Because no one asked, Your Majesty, Yura said simply. My family decided I was worthless when I was born. After that, nothing I did mattered. Honey, Captain Lee, why did you ask? Taiyang met the ancient empress's eyes. Because I'm human, Your Majesty. We have a long history of overlooking people based on stupid criteria like skin color, gender, or where they were born. We nearly destroyed ourselves because of it. We learned the hard way that everyone has value if you look for it. Looked. I found something extraordinary. Kira was silent for a long time. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her decision. I am intrigued, she finally said. But I cannot accept this alliance based on words alone. Captain Li Taiyang, Princess Yura, you will undergo the trials of 3. This is an ancient Krithian tradition. 3 challenges: mind, body, and spirit. If you succeed, I will accept this alliance. If you fail, Earth will be disgraced, and this matter will be closed forever. Your Majesty, Lord Valanthus protested. The trials of 3 are sacred. No non-Krithian has ever attempted them, and it is time for a first, Kira said. Captain Lee, do you accept? Taiyang looked at Yura. Her gray eyes met his. In them, he saw fear, but also hope. For the first time in her life, someone believed in her. He wouldn't let her down. I accept, he said. The trials will begin in 10 days, Kira announced. Until then, this council is adjourned. As the chamber emptied, Taiyang found himself surrounded by his furious delegation. Ambassador Hanari looked ready to strangle him. Admiral Park just shook his head. You better know what you're doing, Captain, Park said. I don't, sir, Taiyang admitted. But I'm going to figure it out. Later that night, Taiyang returned to the observation deck. Yura was already there, waiting. You're insane, she said, but she was smiling slightly. The trials of 3 are designed to be impossible. Nothing's impossible, Taiyang said. Just difficult. Can you help me prepare? Why are you doing this? Yura asked. You don't know me? We've only talked for a week. Why risk everything for someone like me? Taiyang sat beside her. Because someone should have done it years ago. Because you're brilliant and kind, and you deserve better than being locked away because your skin is the wrong color. Because I think you and I could actually make a difference together. He paused. And because when I look at the future, I don't want to wonder what might have happened if I'd been brave enough to try. Yura was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. Her crystalline fingers were cool and smooth. Then we have 10 days, she said. I'll teach you everything I know about Krithian culture, history, and combat. You'll need all of it. Will it be enough? I don't know, Yura admitted. But we're going to try. For the next 10 days, they barely slept. Yura taught Taiyang about Krithian philosophy, about their way of thinking, about the legends and stories that shaped their culture. She showed him combat techniques she had studied, explained the psychology behind their trials, gave him every piece of knowledge she had spent her lonely life accumulating in return. Taiyang taught her about human resilience, about the battles Earth had fought, the impossible odds they had overcome, about the human ability to keep going when any sane person would quit. On the 8th day, they realized they were being watched. Prince Zen and other powerful figures in the galaxy had noticed the change. If Taiyang succeeded, everything would shift. Humanity would gain real legitimacy. The overlooked Yura would become valuable. The old power structures would crack. They couldn't allow that to happen. Captain Song Minho, Taiyang's best friend, came to him on the 9th night with a warning. Oh, there are rumors, Minho said quietly. Sabotage. Assassination. Be careful, brother. I will, Taiyang promised. On the morning of the 10th day, Taiyang stood before the entrance to the trial chamber. The entire Galactic Union had gathered to watch. Billions more watched on broadcasts across the galaxy. Yura stood beside him. Her gray crystals seemed brighter somehow, catching the light. Whatever happens, she said softly, thank you. For seeing me, I'll see you on the other side, Taiyang promised. Then he stepped forward into the trials that no human had ever attempted. Carrying the hopes of an overlooked princess and the future of humanity itself, the trial chamber was massive, built from materials that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. Holographic displays surrounded the space, showing Taiyang's image to billions of viewers across the galaxy. He stood at the center alone, feeling the weight of every eye watching him. High Arbiter Thel materialized before him. The ancient being was pure energy, shaped vaguely like a humanoid form, crackling with power. Captain Li Taiyang of Earth, Thel's voice echoed through the chamber. You face the trials of 3: mind, body, and spirit. Each trial will test you in ways you cannot imagine. Failure means death. Success means proving your worth to the Krithian Empire and the entire Galactic Union. Do you understand? I understand, Taiyang said, and we begin with the trial of mind. The world dissolved around Taiyang. Suddenly he stood in a maze made of pure light. Walls stretched in every direction, constantly shifting and changing. This was the quantum labyrinth Yura had warned him about. Each choice he made would split reality. One wrong turn, and he would be lost forever in probability space, his consciousness scattered across infinite possibilities. Other challengers had tried to map the maze, to find the pattern. They had all failed. The maze had no pattern because it existed in quantum superposition. It was every maze and no maze at the same time. Tane closed his eyes and remembered what Yuta had taught him about human advantage. Humans didn't think like other species. They didn't always follow the rules of logic. Sometimes they just did things that shouldn't work but did anyway. He opened his eyes and walked straight forward into a wall. The wall resisted for a moment, then he pushed through it. Behind him, he heard gasps from the watching crowd. He wasn't following the maze. He was breaking it. Taiyang kept walking, straight through walls that should have been solid. He forced paradoxes with every step, making choices that collapsed the quantum states. The maze couldn't exist in superposition if someone refused to acknowledge its reality. It took an hour. Every step was agony, fighting against the fundamental nature of the space around him. But finally, he emerged on the other side. The Crithian observers were stunned, silent. No one had ever solved the trial of mind that way. They didn't know whether to be impressed or horrified. Trial of mind complete, High Arbiter Thel announced. Unprecedented solution. The human thinks differently than expected. Taeyang didn't have time to rest. The chamber shifted again. Now he stood in a combat arena. 3 Crithian warriors materialized before him, each twice his size and armored in energy shields. Their weapons hummed with power. This was the trial of body. He had to defeat all 3. Warriors to proceed. The first warrior attacked immediately. Taeyang barely dodged the strike that would have cut him in half. He rolled, came up running, and immediately realized the problem. The Crithians were faster than him, stronger than him, and better armed. In a straight fight, he would lose in seconds. But Taeyang had never been good at straight fights. He ran toward the arena wall. The second warrior moved to intercept him. At the last second, Taeyang dropped and slid under the warrior's legs, coming up behind him. He grabbed the warrior's weapon arm and used the Crithian's own momentum to slam him into the wall. The impact stunned the warrior. Taeyang took his weapon and immediately threw it at the third warrior, not to hit him, but to distract him. While the third warrior dodged, Taeyang tackled the first warrior, wrestling him toward the edge of the arena where the gravity generators created a dangerous vortex. The Crithians were stronger, but Taeyang was more flexible. He twisted out of holds that should have broken his bones, moved in ways the rigid Crithian bodies couldn't match, and he never stopped moving. When they hit him, he rolled with the impact and came back. When they knocked him down, he got up. When they thought he was finished, he attacked again. Human endurance. That was what Ura had told him to rely on. Other species could sprint faster, but humans could run forever. They could take punishment that would kill other beings and keep fighting. 30 minutes into the combat, the Crithian warriors were slowing down. Taeyang was bleeding from a dozen wounds, but he was still moving. He used the arena itself as a weapon, the gravity fields, the energy barriers, anything he could find. He turned their strength against them, made them hit each other, exhausted them with constant movement. Finally, the third warrior fell. Taeyang stood alone in the arena, gasping for breath, covered in blood, but alive. Trial of body complete, High Arbiter Thel announced. The human does not win through superiority. He wins through refusing to surrender. The crowd was murmuring now. No one had expected the human to get this far. In the observation area, Ura watched with her hands pressed against the glass, her gray crystals pulsing with light. Taeyang barely had time to catch his breath before the final trial began. The trial of spirit. The arena vanished. Taeyang found himself standing on the bridge of a starship. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. Admiral Park stood beside him. Everything looked normal. Then the alarm started.
Out of the way, Mom.
Multiple hostile ships incoming, someone shouted. We're outnumbered 20-1. Taeyang looked at the tactical display and his heart sank. It was a trap. They had walked right into it. His decision, his fault. Sir. We need to retreat, Admiral Park said. But Taeyang saw the civilian transports behind them. Thousands of refugees, including families from Earth. If they retreated, those transports would be destroyed. We hold position, Taeyang ordered. The battle was a nightmare. One by one, his ships were destroyed. He watched good people die, watched systems fail, watched everything fall apart. And he knew it was because of his choices. He had been too confident, too sure of himself. Captain Song Minho died saving the engineering deck. Ambassador Han Nari was killed when the medical bay was hit. One by one, everyone he cared about perished. Finally, only the flagship remained. The enemy demanded their surrender. If Taeyang refused, everyone would die. If he surrendered, the refugees might be spared, but humanity would be enslaved. Taeyang looked around the burning bridge, the bodies of his friends. At the impossible choice before him, then Ura appeared on the view screen. She looked at him with her calm gray eyes. This is your greatest fear, she said softly. That your choices will kill the people who trust you. That you'll fail them like the commanders you hate failed their soldiers. Taiyang realized the truth. This wasn't real. This was the trial of spirit, showing him his deepest fear made manifest. You can end this, Yura continued. Just accept that you're not good enough. That you should never have tried. That people like us should stay in our place. Taiyang looked at the destruction around him, the death he had caused in this vision. The trial wanted him to either deny his fear or be consumed by it. But he was human. Humans had learned something other species hadn't. You're right, he said quietly. I might fail. People might die because of my choices. I'm not perfect. I'm not the best. I'm just someone trying to do the right thing. Then you admit defeat, the vision asked. No, Taiyang said. I admit I'm afraid. I admit I might be wrong, but I'm going to try anyway. Because the alternative is giving up. It's letting fear make all my choices. It's living in a galaxy where people like Yura stay locked away because they're different. That's worse than failing. That's worse than dying. He took a breath. I'm not conquering this fear. I'm accepting it. This fear is part of being alive. It's part of caring about people. If I wasn't afraid of failing, it would mean I didn't care. So yes, I'm terrified, and I'm going to keep trying anyway. The vision shattered like glass. Taiyang stood back in the trial chamber. High Arbiter Thel floated before him, crackling with what might have been surprise. Trial of spirit complete, Thel announced. The human has done something unprecedented. He did not overcome fear. He embraced it. He accepted vulnerability as strength. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some shouted in denial, but everyone was shocked. Captain Li Taiyang of Earth had completed the trials of 3. Empress Kira materialized in the chamber. Captain Taiyang, you have proven yourself. The alliance marriage is approved. But before anyone could celebrate, Prince Zen stepped forward. I object, he shouted. The human cheated. Our sensors detected human technology active during the trials. He used forbidden assistance. Guards immediately surrounded Taiyang. High Arbiter Thel examined the sensor data that Prince Zen provided. These readings appear authentic, Thel said gravely. If true, Captain Taiyang has violated the sacred nature of the trials. The penalty is death. Taiyang felt his heart sink as guards placed restraints on him. In the crowd, he saw Yura trying to push forward, her gray face stricken with horror. He had succeeded in the trials. But Prince Zen had been planning sabotage all along. And now, unless someone could prove the evidence was false, Taiyang and everything he fought for would die. The Krithian detention cell was small and empty, except for a single bench. Taiyang sat with his back against the cold wall, replaying everything in his mind. He had passed the trials. He had done the impossible. And then Prince Zen had produced evidence that seemed to prove he had cheated. The door opened. Admiral Park entered, his face grim. They're analyzing the sensor data now, Park said. If it's authentic, there's nothing we can do. You'll be executed, and Earth will be expelled from the Galactic Union. The data is fake, Taiyang said. It has to be. I didn't use any technology during the trials. I believe you, Park said, but belief isn't proof. We have 3 days before the ruling. If we can't prove the evidence is fabricated by then, this is over. After Park left, Taiyang sat alone in the darkness. Somewhere in the station, Yura was locked in her family's quarters, probably being punished for associating with him. Humanity's reputation was destroyed. It was all his fault. He should have known better than to challenge the established order. But then he thought about Yura. Sitting alone in that observation deck, believing she was worthless, he thought about all the other beings across the galaxy who were dismissed and overlooked because they didn't fit someone's narrow definition of value. He thought about what would happen if people like Prince Zen kept winning. No, he hadn't been wrong to try. He just needed to be smarter about it. The next morning, Captain Song Minho came to visit. He brought Ambassador Han Nari and a woman Taiyang didn't recognize. She was older, with sharp eyes and a confident bearing. This is Director Choi Yoonji, Minho said quietly. Head of Earth's intelligence service. She wants to help. Why? Taiyang asked. Because you're either the bravest idiot in the galaxy or you're onto something real, Director Choi said. I'm betting on the second option. Tell me everything you know about Prince Zen. Taiyang told them about his conversations with Yura, about the Valanthian political structure, about Prince Zen's ambition and his contempt for his younger sister. Director Choi listened carefully, asking occasional questions. Prince Zen didn't fabricate that evidence alone, she said finally. This kind of censored data manipulation requires expert knowledge and expensive equipment. He had help. It's probably from multiple sources. Can you prove it? Admiral Park asked. Give me 2 days, Director Choi said. She left immediately. Taiyang returned to his cell, hoping she would find something. Anything that could help. That night, he had an unexpected visitor. Princess Yura slipped into his cell like a shadow. Her gray crystals were almost invisible in the dim light. She wore a simple cloak with the hood pulled up. How did you get past the guards? Taiyang asked in amazement. There are passages throughout this station that no one remembers exist, Yuta said. I've been studying the schematics for days. I knew they would try something like this. She sat beside him on the bench. I'm sorry. This is my fault. If I had been worth something to my family, they wouldn't have needed to destroy you. This isn't your fault, Taiyang said firmly. Your family's prejudice isn't your responsibility. I've been thinking, Yura said. Prince Zen isn't smart enough to plan this alone. He's ambitious, but not clever. Someone helped him, someone with technical expertise and political connections. Director Choi said the same thing. Yura nodded slowly. There's a Valanthian official named Chancellor Bo. He handles technological security for our delegation. He's also been having private meetings with representatives from 3 other houses. Houses that would benefit if humanity was disgraced and the old power structure remained intact. Can you prove it? I have access to family communications that others don't. They ignore me, so they're careless around me. I've seen messages, financial transfers, coded conversations. She pulled out a small data device. I copied everything I could find. Taiyang looked at her in amazement. You're risking everything to help. Me. You risked everything for me first, Yura said simply. Besides, this isn't just about us anymore. If they succeed, it proves that the galaxy can't change. That people like me will always be worthless. That humans will always be primitive. That anyone different will always be crushed. I won't accept that. She stood to leave, but Taiyang caught her hand. Yura, if this goes wrong, you could be executed along with me. I know, she said. Her gray eyes met his. But you taught me something. You taught me that trying and failing is better than never trying at all. That some things are worth the risk. After she left, Taiyang held the data device carefully. Hope, small but real, flickered in his chest. The next day, Director Choi returned with Yura's information. She had been busy. With Yura's data as a starting point, she had tracked financial transfers, communications between conspirators, and equipment purchases. The picture that emerged was damning. Prince Zen hadn't acted alone. He was part of a conspiracy involving multiple houses, Chancellor Bo, even some Krithian officials who wanted to prevent humanity's rise. They had planned everything from the beginning. The fabricated evidence, the timing, the backup plans. But having the information wasn't enough. They needed to present it in a way the Galactic Council couldn't ignore. Ambassador Han Nari studied the data carefully. Then she looked up with a sharp smile. There's an ancient protocol, she said. The truth rendering. It's a Krithian ceremony where parties are compelled by technology to speak only truth. It hasn't been used in 1,000 years, but it's still legally valid. Will Empress Kira allow it? Park asked. If we present her with this evidence, she'll have to, Han said. The Krithians value honor above everything. If we show her there's been conspiracy against the sacred trials, she'll want the truth revealed. They worked through the night, preparing their case. Captain Song Min-ho helped coordinate with other junior officers who had noticed suspicious activities during the summit. Yura provided context about Valanthian politics. Director Choi assembled the technical evidence. The next morning, only hours before Taiyang's scheduled execution, Ambassador Han Nari formally requested an emergency session of the Galactic Council. She presented High Arbiter Thel with the evidence of conspiracy and invoked the ancient right of truth rendering. The chamber erupted in chaos. Prince Zen shouted that it was a desperate ploy. Chancellor Bo tried to leave, but was stopped by guards. Other conspirators looked panicked. Empress Kira studied the evidence in silence. The ancient ruler's energy form pulsed with what might have been anger. "The evidence is substantial," she said finally. "The truth rendering is invoked. All parties will appear in 3 days to testify under the ancient machines. Refusal will be considered an admission of guilt." The conspirators were trapped. They couldn't refuse without admitting guilt. But attending meant their lies would be exposed. That night, Tai Yang was moved to better quarters. No longer treated as a convicted criminal, but as an accused party awaiting judgment. He was given medical treatment for his injuries from the trials. Captain Song Minho visited him with a warning. "You're desperate," Minho said quietly. "If they can't win legally, they might try assassination. You and Yura both need to be careful." "How is she?" Taeyang asked. "Confined to her family's quarters but unharmed. Lady Haijin, her older sister, has been protecting her. Apparently not everyone in House Volanthus agrees with Lord Volanthus and Prince Zen." Taeyang nodded. 3 more days? 3 days until the truth rendering would expose everything. 3 days for the conspirators to make one last desperate move. He tried to sleep, but couldn't. His mind kept racing, planning for every possibility. He had come so far, survived so much. But the hardest part was still ahead. And somewhere in the station, he knew Prince Zen and his allies were planning something terrible. The question was whether Taeyang and his friends could stop it before it was too late. The night before the truth rendering ceremony, alarms began blaring throughout Stellaris Prime. Assassins had infiltrated the station. The final battle was about to begin. The assassins came at midnight station time. Taeyang was awake when the alarm started, already dressed and ready. He had expected this. Desperate people do desperate things. Captain Song Minho burst through the door with 3 other human soldiers. They were armed and looked ready for war. 6 targets, all highly trained, Minho reported quickly. "They're heading for 2 locations. 3 going for you? 3 going for Princess Yura?" Taeyang grabbed the weapon Minho tossed him. "Get to Yura. I'll handle the ones coming here. Can't fight 3 assassins alone. Just fought 3 Krithian warriors in one," Taeyang said. "Go. Protect her." Minho hesitated only a second, then ran. Taeyang moved to a defensive position and waited. The assassins who came for him were professionals. They moved in perfect coordination, using the station's architecture to their advantage. But they made one mistake. They assumed Taeyang would run or hide. Instead, he attacked. Taeyang had learned something during the trial of body. He couldn't match alien warriors in strength or speed, but he could outlast them. He could take hits that should kill him and keep fighting. And he could use their own tactics against them. He shot out the lights, plunging the corridor into darkness. Humans couldn't see well in the dark, but neither could Volanthian assassins. He used sound to track them, moved constantly, never stayed in one place. When they fired energy weapons, he was already somewhere else. The fight lasted 10 brutal minutes. Taeyang took a blade to the shoulder and an energy burn across his ribs, but he kept moving. Finally, with the help of Krithian guards who arrived as backup, they captured 2 assassins. The third escaped but was wounded. Taeyang didn't wait to recover. He ran toward the Volanthian quarters where Yura was being held. He arrived to find chaos. Minho and his team were fighting the other 3 assassins in the corridor outside Yura's room. Bodies of guards lay scattered. The door to Yura's quarters was breached. Taeyang's heart stopped. He ran through the broken door. Inside, he found Prince Zen holding a blade to Yura's throat. She was backed against the wall, her gray crystals flickering with fear. But her eyes were clear and focused. "Stay back, human," Zen snarled. "This is family business. My worthless sister has embarrassed House Volanthus for the last time." "Let her go," Taeyang said, raising his weapon. "It's over. We have evidence of everything. The truth rendering will expose you." "Then I have nothing to lose," Zen said. His crystalline face was twisted with hate. If I'm going to fall, I'm taking her with me. The defective princess who thought she could matter. I do matter, Yura said quietly. Her voice was steady despite the blade at her throat. You just never looked close enough to see it. Tai Yang saw Yuru's hand moving slowly toward something on her belt. She was planning something. He needed to keep Zen distracted. You're right about one thing, Tai Yang said. You have nothing to lose. But killing her won't change anything. The evidence still exists. You'll still be exposed. You'll die a murderer instead of just a conspirator, human Zen spat. You think you understand us? You think you belong here? You're nothing but primitives who stumbled into space. You should have stayed on your little planet. Maybe Taeyang said. But we're here now, and we're not going anywhere. Yura moved. It was subtle, so fast that Taeyang almost missed it. She twisted, struck Zen's wrist with a combat technique Taeyang had taught her, and broke free from his grip. The blade clattered to the floor. Zen roared with rage and lunged at his sister. But Yura was ready. She had spent weeks learning human fighting techniques. She wasn't strong, but she was smart and precise. She dodged his attack, used his momentum against him, and sent him stumbling toward the balcony. Zen caught himself on the railing. For a moment he stood there, looking at his younger sister with pure hatred. You were always worthless, he said. Gray and dull and useless. No, Yura said. I was always exactly what I needed to be. You just couldn't see it. Zen tried to attack again, but his injuries from Yura's defense and his own rage made him clumsy. He stumbled, lost his balance, and fell over the railing with a scream that ended suddenly. Silence filled the room. Yura stood at the railing, staring down at where her brother had fallen. Her hands were shaking. Taeyang crossed to her and gently pulled her away from the edge. She collapsed against him, and he held her while she cried. Not for Zen, but for everything. For the years of being dismissed. For the violence. For the loss of what little family connection she had once hoped for. By the time reinforcements arrived, the assassination attempt was over. All conspirators were captured or dead. The truth-rendering ceremony would proceed as planned. The next morning, the entire Galactic Union gathered in the Great Council Chamber. The truth-rendering machines were ancient Crithian technology, crystalline structures that surrounded each speaker and made lies physically impossible to speak. One by one, the conspirators testified. Chancellor Bo confessed to fabricating the censor evidence. Representatives from other houses extended their roles in trying to prevent humanity's rise and maintain the old power structure. Even some Crithian officials admitted they had cooperated, fearing what change might bring to the galaxy. The truth was laid bare for everyone to see. The conspiracy had been vast, involving dozens of powerful figures. All because one human soldier had chosen an overlooked princess. But then came the question of Zen's death. Lord Valanthus, humiliated by his son's crimes, but still proud, demanded justice under Valanthian law. Yura had killed her own brother. By ancient tradition, that meant execution. Even if it was self-defense. Taeyang stood and invoked another ancient law that Yura had taught him weeks ago. The right of champion's substitution. Since Yura had been defending Taeyang's life and their alliance, she had acted as his champion. Any judgment against her must first pass through him. Then you accept responsibility for Prince Zen's death? Lord Valanthus demanded. I accept responsibility for everything that has happened, Taeyang said, including exposing a conspiracy that nearly destroyed the Galactic Union, including proving that the trials of 3 could be passed with honor, including showing everyone here that the galaxy's greatest weakness isn't military power or technology. It's waste. He turned to address the entire council. Every species here overlooks people who don't fit your narrow definitions of value. Ura was dismissed because her crystals were gray. I was dismissed because I'm human. How many others have you dismissed? How many brilliant minds? How many potential allies? How many solutions to problems have been thrown away because someone didn't look right, or sound right, or come from the right background? Taeyang looked at Empress Kira. Humanity's strength isn't that we're special. It's that we learn from our mistakes. We nearly destroyed ourselves, judging people by skin color, gender, religion, nationality. We learn the hard way that everyone has value if you look for it. That's what we offer this galaxy. Not weapons or technology. A different way of seeing. The chamber was completely silent. Then Empress Kira spoke. Captain Li Taiyang makes a compelling argument. The ancient ruler's energy form pulsed with light. The conspiracy is exposed and crushed. Prince Zen's death is ruled lawful self-defense. The marriage alliance between House Philanthus and humanity is ratified immediately. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried across the galaxy. But more than this, I declare the creation of the Overlooked Accords. Every species in the Galactic Union must identify one overlooked individual to serve on a new council. Those who have been dismissed, ignored, or undervalued. They will help us find our blind spots, challenge our assumptions, and build a better future. Humanity will lead this initiative. Lord Valanthus looked like he had swallowed poison, but he had no choice. He formally recognized Yura's worth and apologized publicly for dismissing her. Lady Hyjin, Yura's older sister, stepped forward and announced that she would become heir to House Valanthus. With Yura as her chief advisor, the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days later, Taiyang and Yura stood together in the observation deck where they had first met. Her gray crystals had changed. They no longer looked dull. Instead, they shimmered with soft, opalescent light, like pearls or moonlight on water. It wasn't the brilliant colors her family prized, but something uniquely beautiful. It's not that I was defective, Yura said softly, touching her arm. I just needed to become who I really am instead of what they wanted me to be. Are you ready for what comes next? Taiyang asked. The politics, the pressure, leading this initiative. Are you? Yura countered with a slight smile. Honestly? No, I'm terrified. But I'm doing it anyway. Then we'll be terrified together, Yura said, taking his hand. Their wedding was held a week later, attended by representatives from all 47 species. The ceremony combined human, Valanthian, and Crithian traditions, creating something entirely new. A symbol of what the galaxy could become when it embraced change instead of fearing it. Admiral Wool, Park stood with the human delegation. Watching his former subordinate marry an alien princess and change the course of galactic history, he shook his head with a smile. That crazy gambit had actually worked. Director Choi Yunji watched from the intelligence section and made notes. Humanity had just gained real power in the Galactic Union, not through force, but through vision. She needed to make sure they used it wisely. Captain Song Minho stood as Taiyang's best man, grinning. His brother had always been one for unconventional tactics. This was just his biggest one yet, and throughout the galaxy, billions of beings who had been overlooked, dismissed, or undervalued watched the ceremony and felt something new. Hope. If a gray-skinned princess and a primitive human soldier could change everything, maybe they could too, as Taiyang and Yura exchanged vows, creating a bond between species and a promise of something better. The galaxy took its first real step toward a different future, one where everyone's potential mattered, where difference was valued instead of feared, where an overlooked princess and a soldier who saw her worth could spark a revolution. It had started with one simple choice: to see value where others saw weakness, to try when failure seemed certain, to believe that people could change and grow. That choice echoed across the stars, changing everything it touched, and in the empty observation deck where it all began, the stars shone just a little bit brighter.